One. Janelle, will you handle roll call, please?
Bertle,
Here.
Baker,
Here.
Duffy. Is Pat not here yet? Okay,
Not yet.
okay. Kadunko,
Here.
no. Vivian's not here yet either.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay, okay, and then, has Nate arrived yet?
Yes.
Okay,
Here.
okay, so Bell,
Here.
okay, so that's everyone. We're just waiting. for-
Bashki is here.
As soon as I can get
Rob, yeah,
camera on here, I will.
and we're still waiting for Pat.
Okay, for those who are interested in joining us, we will, on the count of three, recite the Pledge of Allegiance. 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as published?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And then we will have just, we will have one deviation. Items 5, 6, and 7 may well become a menagerie of discussion together. We'll start off addressing number 7 first, and then weave our ways through 5 and 6. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as published?
I have a question. On page 10, it was agenda item number 15. Discussion regarding utilization of the village's ARPA funds. It was supposed to be tabled to this agenda and it's not on this agenda.
I remember discussing that with Heidi, but we did not discuss the tabling until this meeting.
I believe that it was taken off, Rob, because the county has not had the opportunity to meet yet with all of the municipalities regarding their plans. Because Dave had sent out that letter as a request from the county board to meet with all the municipalities.
Yes, I recall us talking about that.
Okay, well, whether or not that happens, because there's legislation that is going on that is affecting us, including comments and correspondence from the American Planning Association that's in our packet tonight, that's quite alarming. Whether or not we meet with the county, we need to have this as an agenda item for the December meeting, please.
Yeah, that's where we had said we would be putting it in December when Heidi and I went through the agenda. So yes, we absolutely will.
Because we should be talking about it tonight and sending another letter.
Any other comments on the minutes? Okay, I'll motion that we accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Janelle, can you summarize correspondence for us?
Sure, there is quite a bit of correspondence. There was a letter of introduction and a related flyer that was received from Julie Lallizer, the grant program and operations manager for the Raybrick Foundation. Basically, Ms. Lallizer indicates that she read that the village had partnered with the Door County Land Trust to purchase Pebble Beach. And if the village was interested in submitting a grant application, that would be possible. There was also a letter received from the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. And in that letter, the members of the MS Society thank Heidi for assisting them with reserving the village hall for the 2021 Challenge Walk. There was a letter received from Dean Hager, the Executive Director of the Clean Water Action Council of Northeast Wisconsin. In his letter, he expresses concerns about a recycling violation that he believes occurred during this year's Fall Fest celebration, as there were no recycling bins available for the public to use. There was also a letter from Rodney Hedin. In his letter, Mr. Hedin, pardon? Okay, in his letter, Mr. Hedin points out that Sisters Bay's mill rate is by far the highest of any of its municipal neighbors, and states that currently the village's mill rate is 167% higher than Ephraim's and a whopping 243% higher than Liberty Grove's. There was a letter and a copy of a survey that was received from the Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission. Both of those documents pertain to the 2021 Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy document, and the fact that the project list that is contained in that document for 2021 is being updated. If village officials want to have any community projects included in this year's update, the survey has to be submitted by Friday, November 12th. There was an email from Kelly Claflin, the construction manager, co-owner of Keller Inc. In his email, Mr. Claflin indicates that he and his associates are very interested in assisting village officials with the planning for the new multi-use government building that has been proposed for the Wiltsey property. There's an email that was received from Governor Evers. In that email, Governor Evers indicates that the Department of Administration has submitted the 2021 to 2023 State of Wisconsin Compensation Plan to the Joint Committee on Employment Relations. There was an email that was received from Mariah Good, the Director of the Door County Land Use Services Department. In her email, Ms. Good indicates that the spring 2021 UW-Madison University program student housing projects have been completed. And if anyone wants to see them, they're available for review on the Housing Door County website. There was a letter that was received from Joe Chrisman of the Wisconsin Legislative Audit Bureau. In his letter, Mr. Chrisman indicates that at the direction of the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, the Nonpartisan Legislative Audit Bureau has completed an evaluation of elections administration in issues in the state of Wisconsin, and their findings are outlined in report 21-19. There was an email that was received from Tim Halbrook. In his email, Mr. Halbrook indicates that he's looking for land to build apartment buildings on in Sister Bay, and if village officials are interested, he would be willing to work with them on the creation of a housing project on the Wiltsey land. There was also a press release that was received from the Wisconsin chapter of the American Planning Association. In that document, there's a notation that APA Wisconsin applauds the legislature's focus on the housing crisis, which is affecting communities of all types, sizes, and locations. APA Wisconsin supports AB 604, 607, and 609, and is neutral with respect to AB 606, but is opposed to AB 604, which would give the state control over how local parks are used. They're also opposed to AB 605, which would dictate how local governments use ARPA funds, but is most alarmed about AB 608, a bill that addresses exclusionary zoning, which basically would eliminate the tradition of local zoning in favor of statewide standards, thereby allowing widespread construction of apartment buildings at a density that many communities simply cannot handle. Then after the packets had been distributed, we also received an email from Meg Ziegelman. In her email, Ms. Ziegelman indicates that she fully supports the efforts of the village to see that the village is designated as a Green Tier Legacy Community Committee. And that's all the correspondence we have.
Thank you, Janelle. Do we have any comments or concerns from the public on a non-agenda item this evening? Thank you all from the public who are joining us this evening, and moving on to business items. Item number 1, discussion regarding the potential for the Village of Sister Bay to become a member of the Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission, and the making of a related presentation by Sydney Swan, a representative of that organization. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. Do we have Sydney with us?
I'm right here.
Excellent. We turn it over to you.
Great. Okay, I think I can share my screen. Let's see here. Can everyone see my screen here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so thank you so much for allowing me to attend your village board meeting. I'm going to try to make this quick. My name is Sydney Swan. I'm an economic development planner for Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission. This presentation is basically just going to give you guys a little bit more information about Bay Lake, who we are, our services, some of our recent planning documents that we've created, some information about membership, and feel free to stop me at any time if you have any questions. So Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission is one of the 9 state established RPCs in the state. We were formed by executive order of the governor in 1972, and we provide intergovernmental planning and coordination for the physical, social, and economic development of the region. We are a public entity established similar to a municipality, and we provide a whole wide range of planning services to our member local units of government in Northeast Wisconsin. We are accountable to our local government members, and we serve as effective partners for state and federal governments as well. Wisconsin state statutes, which created the Regional Planning Commission, prescribes that the function of the RPC shall be solely advisory to the local governments and local government officials comprising the region. So just a little bit about our history. Again, we were created in 1972, and that was at the request of 7 counties. And we are the official area-wide planning agency for Northeast Wisconsin. We had an additional county join in 1973. We were designated as the Economic Development District by the Economic Development Administration in 1980. And we were designated as the Metropolitan Planning Organization for Sheboygan County in 1982. And next year, we'll be celebrating 50 years. So our region consists of 8 counties. As you can see, we start up here in Florence, we go down the lake shore to Sheboygan. It also includes Door County. So we have a governing board of commissioners. We have 3 commissioners from each county. One is appointed by the governor, one is appointed by the county board, and another is actually 2 are appointed by the county board. And we do have 1 commissioner for Brown and Door County. So there's a list of our staff members, there's currently 10 of us. Here's some of our federal and state partners that we work with almost on a daily basis. So our services, we offer community planning, so comprehensive plans, green infrastructure code audits, farmland preservation plans, hazard mitigation plans, housing studies, infrastructure funding strategies, implementation plans, zoning assistance, neighborhood and corridor master planning, and strategic planning and visioning. So that is just some of the services that we offer under our community assistance and housing department. We also offer under our economic development partner, since we are the economic development district, we often help communities with EDA applications to receive funding for various infrastructure planning projects. We help with funding identification. So communities will come to us and present a project, and we'll give them a whole list of different state, federal, and local grants or other funding opportunities that they can apply to. We'll also help with writing the grants and administering the grants. We do have a Brownfield Assessment program where we offer phase 1 and phase 2 site assessments to member communities. We have a disaster recovery microloan program under the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, which allows us to create loans for businesses. And we also right now have the Main Street Bounce Back Grant Program, which we are able to award new and existing businesses moving into vacant storefronts a $10,000 grant. So that's some of the stuff that we do under economic development. In terms of environmental planning, we have agricultural studies, coastal planning that we often do, ecotourism and outdoor recreation planning. We'll conduct environmental reviews as part of grant applications. We have invasive species management plans, land and water conservation planning, resiliency planning, and we offer sewer service area plans. We also have a GIS department that will create custom maps, field collection and management. We had a gold shovel program. We do interactive maps and applications by request, and we'll do land use inventories. In transportation planning, we will conduct bicycle and pedestrian planning, safe routes to school planning, corridor planning, pavement surveys. Again, we're the MPO for the Sheboygan area, but that doesn't really apply to the village. And we'll also offer some additional transportation plans as necessary. So here's an example of some of our recent plans that we've created. You can also find all of these on our website, but I will just zoom right past this. This is just showing some of our outdoor rec plans, hazard mitigation plans. We'll do zoning and ordinance plans, bicycle and pedestrian, farmland preservation, comprehensive plans. We'll also conduct studies and strategies. So we have our comprehensive economic development strategy that the village received that survey for. And also if the village is not able to get that in by Friday, don't worry about it. We'll take it after that. But really having your priority projects listed in this document is important because you can not only use it for getting EDA funding, but you can also use it for, getting other grants. Usually grant applications will ask for if the project is in a long-term planning document or in other planning documents. So it's great to reference the SEDS if you do have a priority project in that document. We conduct housing studies. We've done some public access and beach restoration projects and invasive species management projects. Additionally, a little bit more about our mapping. We've been creating a lot of interactive maps and applications. Some of these will tie directly to actual planning documents that we've created. So it's just more of a user-friendly version. We also create these applications for some of our transportation plans, like our bicycle and pedestrian plan, and also like our water trail plans. We did an Anape River water trail where the users could actually be on the trail, pull up their phone, figure out where they are, figure out where their next stop would be, or where the kayak launch or takeout is. So those are some really neat applications that we've been developing. We do site plans and concept plans, and we will do a lot of ArcGIS online and field collection data apps, and we'll create custom maps by request. So additional benefits or services that we offer our members, these are free of cost. We will offer technical assistance when it comes to economic development planning. So this could be funding identification and grant application review. We do write coastal management grants for free, so the village would apply to that. You would be able to apply for coastal management. Say you wanted to redo your comprehensive plan, we would be able to write a grant for that next year and hopefully receive that to try to offset the costs. We have other ways to offset costs for comprehensive plans as well. We also offer meeting facilitation, PACER surveys. We'll do those for free, which a lot of communities like to take advantage of. We also have the Brownfield site assessment program, which I spoke about a little bit. And we also offer a free technical assistance grant to, it's been more communities lately. About 3 to 5 communities will receive up to 40 hours of free work. So some of our recent awards included offsetting the cost for the Florence County Comprehensive Plan update, in addition to the Village of Cedar Grove, And we also created a sustainability guidebook for the city of Sheboygan. This year we did I guess it's a technology plan for the village of Lena. So just helping them, get up to speed with their technology in their village hall so that, they can hold virtual meetings and, they have the technology that they need to do so. So currently our member counties include Florence, Kewaunee, Manitowoc, Marinette, Oconto, and Sheboygan County. Door County is not a member at this time. However, we do allow individual communities to become members, and they will then have access to all of our services. A recent change in our bylaws will be impacting individual communities, and that will take effect June 2022. So after that date, individual communities will no longer be able to join, but those that do join for 2022 will be grandfathered in. So currently for 2022, we have this list of members in Door County: the city of Sturgeon Bay, town of Gibraltar, town of Jacksonport, town of Liberty Grove, town of Gardner, town of Sebastopol, and village of Egg Harbor. And those that you see with the asterisk have been members, they were members in 2021 and previously. So they're going to continue their membership. And the other communities have verbally committed to joining for 2022. So the village of Sister Bay, the annual membership rate is $2,689. Okay, so I just kind of zoomed through that. Does anyone have any questions? Actually, I did want to, someone have a hand up?
I did. So Pat Duffy, thanks for the presentation and the time. Good stuff here. So a couple questions. One, as you were going through the board members, it appeared as though there were 3 from most communities, but I think I noticed only 1 from Door County. And I was just curious why that is.
Yeah, so I think the reason is because there hasn't been a governor appointment for Door County. So we have to wait until the governor appoints a position, and the other position has also not been appointed. So we plan to meet with Door County to see if we can get an additional commissioner or 2 on the board. It's important to have a commissioner from each county because they are supposed to be bringing this information that we share with them back to the communities. So hopefully within the next year, we'll have additional commissioners, I should say, from Door County, but at this time there's just 1.
Okay, so it's not as though Door County is limited to 1. We could or should have 3. It's just that they're vacant spots.
Correct. Yeah. And I do not believe the commissioner for Door County has been in attendance lately. So I think, the visit with the county should warrant some sort of, plan to get some additional commissioners into Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission.
And those meetings, are they virtual or where are they held?
They're held at our office in De Pere. There is also a virtual option. So the public is invited to join, but yes, we have them here and they're generally quarterly.
Okay. And another question I had was, you talk a lot about this planning, which sounds great. So the village recently purchased a 56-acre parcel of land that we have been meeting to discuss what might go on that, municipal buildings, affordable housing, other types of development. This is undeveloped, used to be an orchard. And so there'd be street and utility work and, kind of start from scratch, topography, all that kind of analysis. My question is, for a member, if we came to you and said, okay, here's this clean slate, here's a list of potential objectives to be placed on the site, what, if anything, might the commission be able to assist us with?
So we can assist with like meeting facilitation if you want to, hold a committee, or if you want to have some public meetings. We'd also be able to assist with some site plan and some sort of concept like that. We could incorporate it into the comprehensive plan, which would help. And additionally, we can help with funding. So we could provide you with a whole list of different funding opportunities to get, roads, sewer, everything out there. So different areas or departments of Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission would be able to work on that. So it would come from the economic development side, community assistance side, as well as the transportation side.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so are there fees associated with those various departments, or this is all part of your annual dues?
So I guess, like the funding assistance, that would be, that'd be free of charge, part of the levy. When it comes to the comprehensive plan, that would entail cost, as well as if you wanted like a site plan or a concept plan created, that would also, there'd be a cost for that as well. But again, there's other ways to offset those costs. So maybe through our technical assistance grant program that we offer annually, through the coastal management grant program that's offered through the DOA. And EDA also offers planning grants, so you could utilize funds from that. So there's plenty of options there that are available.
Okay. Another question, you mentioned about sewer planning in the presentation. How about storm sewer analysis or studies?
Yeah, I'm sure that's something that we'd be able to do. I'm not sure if we've done anything like that recently. But we were able to offer a lot more services than what I presented. So I think that would be a matter of holding a conversation with our environmental planner and community assistance planners and seeing what we'd be able to offer.
Okay. And so then again, just trying to get a sense of this, that's on a fee basis, or that again is part of the dues?
I guess it would depend on the scope of work. If it's, a smaller study that you're looking for, I think that that's something that we'd be able to use EDA or some of our rural transportation funding for. So the levy amounts that are paid for by each county or individual community, that will often go to, our match for federal and state grants, so that we are able to offset the cost and offer some of these services for free. So I guess, it would really depend on the scope of services for that particular plan or study.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one question for you, Sydney. In terms of your ongoing members that you've had with you, and when you're pitching other communities to join, do you share, or would you be in a position to be able to share how much on average each member pays on a yearly basis to you above the $26.89 or thereabout fee, which in broad scope would give us some sort of an understanding as to the willingness and perhaps the need of your other member communities to enlist your additional fee services?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess, if that should be all public information. So if someone were to request a cost that we did for a different community, I think that we'd be able to share that. I probably won't know the cost off the top of my head for some of these projects. But yeah, so we would be able to share that information. We also quarterly and annually in our annual report, we will detail all of the work that we've done for each county, so you can actually see what work we've done for each community as well. So I think that that's a useful document to really see, okay, what is my annual membership rate getting me? So if you're interested in seeing some of those quarterly reports or the annual report, you can just let me know and I can forward that to you. And this is information that we hope that the commissioners will bring back to the county board and share with their constituents so that, communities know that we are getting work done for them. Another thing that I want to add is our costs are a lot cheaper than if you were to go with a private consultant. For example, we had a community come to us and ask for an environmental review. They were quoted at $27,500 for an environmental review for a grant application. We quoted them at $3,500. However, they're not members, so we were not able to, give them that $2,500 or $3,500 environmental review. So it's generally a lot more economically feasible for communities to join the RPC and go with us for some of those planning documents than it would be to go with a private consultant or firm.
Sydney, why is it cheaper? Is it because you are subsidized by the state? Is that how that works?
Correct. Yep. So like I said, we use our levy amounts to offset the costs and use it as match for federal and state grants that allow us to complete some of this work at a lesser cost than it would be for a private consultant.
And then to kind of follow up, Pat asked about all the questions I was going to ask, but just a little bit, getting back to that 56-acre parcel of land. Basically, you assist with it, but you're not designing it, right? You're not civil engineers. You're not going through that much of it. You're just kind of like that in between that helps us locate the people to really get the work done, or how would that relationship work in a situation like that property?
So I mean, we can do site plans and things like that, but when it comes to actually, designing,
And bidding out all that, we would have to do or have somebody else do.
Yeah, so, and we could also help with the procurement of all that, but there are certain things that we can do. So say like an environmental review, we can do stuff like that. The site plan, the grant application, we can create maps, project location maps, things like that. So, if you were to go with a private consultant, we can certainly take some of their scope of work activities and perform them at a lesser rate. So it might entail, going both routes.
Denise,
So
you're
I think-
next.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Sydney, Denise Berto, the membership dues, is it done on an annual basis, a January 1st to December 31st? Do you have a different fiscal year? What's that cycle?
Yep, so you're exactly right. It's annual, ending in the 31st of the year.
Okay, so if we wanted to become a member, we would then most likely do it January 1st.
Correct, yep. Mhm.
Okay.
Sydney, one other question. Does your commission have ground rules as far as how a member municipality reaches out to you or contacts you? For instance, do you require a single point of contact, or for instance, would any committee chair or trustee of Sister Bay be able to reach out on any issue they cared to?
Yep, anyone can reach out to us. And you can reach out to just our general line, which that's either email or phone, and they could direct you to the correct person depending on the project or what you're looking for.
Thank you.
So just as a follow-up, I would definitely be interested in maybe the last annual report and or quarterly report. And if you had any example of a plan survey or what you've done with for a municipality that was bare land that now they're looking at multi-use planning, here's an example of what was done, that would be helpful.
Sure, I can definitely do that.
Thank you.
At some point in the past, was Sister Bay part of this? Because I want to say way back when I got on the plan commission, there was talk of this.
They did the 2002 comprehensive plan for the village. I believe, I don't know if we were individual members, but that is when the county was part of it, Nate. And we worked a lot with Bay Lakes Regional Planning. They did that whole large document. Ron Kane is zooming in, who is administrator at that time. And if he wanted to chime in and talk about what they had done for us in the past, I welcome him to it.
I unfortunately don't remember it being a very positive conversation, but that also was, 12, 13 years ago. So I would very much love to hear what Ron's got to say, his recollection.
I think we've lost Ron momentarily.
He'll have to unmute himself. There you go.
We've done a lot of work with Bay Lakes Regional Planning in the past. They've been very good at the quality of work that they do. And for the amount of money that you pay, you certainly get it refunded in their ability to apply grants and find money for you.
I have a great deal of confidence in Denise and I being able to make sure we get our money's worth and then some.
Well, yeah, I think just the fact that we need an environmental done on that property is a logical first step. And if you can show an example, just like you're going to.
Do you do anything with broadband?
Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Do you do anything with local area network Wi-Fi connectivity issues, man? That's what that is, buddy.
Cindy, did you want to share anything else here on your screen?
Yeah, actually, so I was just gonna go over some of the comp plan styles that we've done recently. I will say that we do actually do a fair amount with broadband. We work closely with Steve Jenkins of Door County Economic Development Corporation, and we assisted him with writing a broadband application for, let's see, it was Jacksonport, Sevastopol, and one other community. So we assisted him with that. But yeah, there's other broadband work that we do. We work closely with New North, who's doing a regional broadband study right now, which does include Door County. So lots there. But on my screen, let me. I don't know how to get this bigger. There we go. Well, I'll just go like this. So I just wanted to share, so some of our recent comprehensive plans, we've recently begun to create more user-friendly comprehensive plans that, won't just sit on the shelf. So here's a couple of our recent comp plans within the last couple of years. So some of the styles, we'll do a full comprehensive plan update. So that's the actual document here. And recently we've started adding a story map, which a lot of communities like. It's very user-friendly. It's the public can also use it, and it doesn't eliminate anything from the state statute requirements. So that's great. And they can also be used for, applying for grants as well. So Sevastopol, we did one recently. Manitowoc County, we did the story map edition. And for those that are not aware of story map, just exit this. I pulled one of them up. So here's Sevastopol's. We basically go over each element and just, create a more visually pleasing version that can be accessed online at any time. So let's see. Additionally, we have, go back up here. We've done like a poster style in addition to the actual document. So a lot of communities like this poster style to hang in their office building. So this is quite a large poster. There's actually 2 pages of it, so it looks actually really nice when it's up on the wall, and it gives just enough information, you know, that you need, and to keep people, you know, looking at it and the public interested in it. So let me see if I can pull up one of those on here. Here we go. It's a little small. But yeah, so that's one of the posters. You can find all of our plans and our annual report and everything on our website. So here's some of our recent plans that we've conducted, and we also have more information about each of our departments under here. So if you go to economic development, you can see all of the different services that we offer there. And again, it's not limited to what we have listed on our website. You know, we'll really take on whatever it is that a community needs. So I think that's all I have. Does anyone else have any questions?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sydney.
Thank you.
Sydney, before you go,
Yes.
Pat had requested that additional information from you. Will you be able to email that to us in the village office so that we can get it to the board members?
Yeah, can I email that to Heidi?
Sure, that'll be fine.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. You guys have a wonderful night.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, business item number 2, a report on county activities from the county supervisor. Dave?
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yep.
thank you.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, how you doing? Good to see everybody, even at a distance. I do have 3 items to briefly go over with you. Today, we had a county board annual meeting, which also incorporated a public hearing for the new supervisory districts that was redone and sent in, and also the budget. And we also went through a supervisor compensation and reimbursement plan today. So the first thing was the 2022 budget and tax levy. And there were some significant differences this year over last year. The county this year, the total expense for 2022 budget is $81,620,000 plus change. Of that, we get grants and direct funding from the state for $51,647,000, which leaves a tax levy of $29,973,000. The tax rate is 3.56%, the mill rate. Compared to last year, that the tax rate percentage went down 10.41% this year, and the tax levy went down 2.34%. And somebody asked today, well, how did it go down so much? I mean, are we doing so well fiscally or what? And while we are doing well fiscally, it also has to do with the increase in the assessed value throughout the county. It rose significantly over the last year. So when you talk about it went down 10%, you have to ask yourself, do you want 5% of, do you want 10% of $100, or do you want 5% of $200? It's the same number. You're just talking on the assessment side, a higher ratio, if you will. Okay. But the overall budget is down almost $9 million from last year. Most of that has to do with paying off debt service that was retired over the last year, including, for those of you who have been around this long, when the county built the new jail and built the new highway shop out on Duluth Avenue, those bonds were finally paid off this past year. So that was a significant dollar amount and a significant 30-year period of time, if you will. The second thing that we covered was the supervisory final district plan that was approved today. You saw all that. All the municipalities, of course, saw that and voted on it and approved it. And that will be sent off to the state tomorrow. And the last thing that occurred was because it's an election year coming up next year, for all the county supervisors, by December 1st, when the papers come out for election for each supervisor, we always have to put in the compensation that will take place for the next 2 years of the county board. And up until this year, up until today, it's always been on a per diem basis. And what I mean by that is, much like you get paid, you attend a meeting, you get X amount of dollars for the meeting. If there's any travel involved, you get car mileage or whatever back and forth to the meeting, and it's based on the number of hours spent at the meeting. This year, and this has been talked about on and off for about 6 years. There's been a lot of discussion about it, but we became a self-organized county, which means that we can put together for ourselves a hybrid fiscal model, if you will, for payment. And so what's happened is the supervisors approved today going to a salary position. So starting in 2022, all the supervisors will be paid a base salary of $7,500, and there will be no more per diems. There'll still be mileage reimbursements, but no more per diems. And the question that always comes up is, why would you want to do that? Well, first of all, we took all of the dollars that were being spent for everybody going to various meetings and totaled it all up and averaged it out. And that's where the $7,500 came up. What's happened in the past is if you were on 6 meetings and somebody else was on 2 meetings or committees, I mean, 6 committees versus 2 committees, the person with the 6 committees made a lot more money in the year than the person with 2 committees. And that may be through no fault of their own, just, you know, what was available at the time that they were assigned committees. We always try and balance it out, but every committee doesn't meet, you know, the same frequency. Oftentimes committees meet quarterly or semi-annually or every other month, as opposed to somebody who might have several committees that meets every month. So it was a way to kind of level the playing field. And we also thought it was a way to attract additional people to run for the county board. To let them know that there is a kind of a fixed payment in place. It also allows a supervisor to be paid for the hours that he or she spends getting ready for a committee meeting or for a board meeting. It's oftentimes a lot of the committees, especially your RPC committee, public service committee, EMS committees, spend hours in preparation for a lot of their meetings, and that was never taken into account in the compensation that they received. So we felt this is the majority of the board felt this was a fair compensation plan to try. And so it was approved today it had to be a super majority. It was approved by a super majority, and that will be the compensation plan that's in place for at least the next 2 years. It cannot be changed again until prior to the next supervisor election, which would be in 2024. And that's what I got. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer it.
Denise?
Dave, I know you and I have been conversing back and forth about AB 608, which was mentioned in the letter from the American Planning Association. I did send you, did you receive it? The actual letter from them? Okay.
I did, yes, thank you.
Okay, I was wondering, and I know that you have talked to Joel Kitchens, but now you have not been connecting, maybe just playing phone tag or possibly being ignored. I was
I'm
wondering,
sure it's just phone tag.
Since I talked to you last, which was earlier today, have you heard back from him at all?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not. I will attempt to reach him again tomorrow morning.
Okay. And secondly, do you think in light of this, now that it's out of the assembly and is going to the Senate, that the county would be readdressing this at your next meeting?
I do know that there's conversation going on at Land Use Services, which will bleed into the RPC for this particular discussion, because it will also affect the bill you're referring to will also affect what's going on at the municipal level through all the county zoning at the municipalities. In addition to, of course, Sturgeon Bay and Sister Bay have their own plan commission, but it will also affect all of the other municipalities in the county too. So they're having that discussion. And I know that's taking place this week. I do know there was some back of the room discussion about this today also, as people were becoming more and more aware of what it really meant.
Okay, and just to highlight, I trust that everybody read the entire packet in its whole, but pertaining to this planning letter, AB 608 would require municipalities to allow multifamily in all commercial districts at 16 units per acre or more. In other words, all historic Main Street districts, retail-oriented shopping districts, entertainment districts, office parks, etc. Local decision-making over the location of apartment buildings would be preempted across the state, and local communities would not be allowed to consider compatibility with adjacent uses, infrastructure capacity, roadway and parking capacity, environmental impacts, or any other relevant considerations. So I just want to make the board really aware, as the Plan Commission Chair, how very detrimental this will be to Sister Bay if passed through the Senate.
It also, if I can add a comment, Denise, to your comments, it also appears that cities and villages that offer sewer and water would also be at a disadvantage, in that if they offer sewer and water, they would be required to provide it to any of these developments, period, without any
Period. Yep.
period. Just have to do it.
So we'd have to extend it to wherever they built it.
Yes.
So much for smart growth plan and zoning.
We should up our commitments to lawyers on retainer, because it would, maybe we drag the developer 3 years down the road, because it would take forever to do that. It's crazy.
Contact your legislators individually.
Yes, they do listen. They do listen. Any other questions of anything else having to do with the county? I'll be happy to try and answer.
Real quick, you said it passed the assembly and it's going to the Senate?
Yes.
How
Yes.
did Joel vote on it?
Joel was on the committee, and he did not divulge this to Dave in their first conversation. He was on the committee that voted it out of committee, and he was in favor of it. The village had sent a letter. I believe the county sent a letter. Dave had a phone conversation with him, telling him how detrimental certain aspects of this legislation would be. Never once did Joel say, well, I was on the committee that moved it out of committee, so he wasn't very forthcoming. I believe he's simply not listening and understanding the impact of what this means.
Oh, as a village, we wrote a letter already, or we should be
Yes.
writing a letter? Yeah, I thought we did. Okay.
We did.
Yes, yes.
But now I think we should send a letter to our senators.
Andre Jacques.
And it doesn't hurt to write a letter to the governor either, because eventually it's got to come to his desk if it gets passed.
A letter was already sent to Andre Jacques, and their office responded thanking us for our input.
Is he still in a bubble, or is he back working?
He's back working.
He's back working, yeah.
All right. Put some calls in, right?
Mhm. Okay, if there's nothing else, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Good evening.
Item number 3, update from the Sister Bay Historical Society on the impact of the village's letter of support and discussion on further avenues of support. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. I believe John is still with us. And John, you can unmute yourself and I will turn this over to you. Should be on the lower left of your screen.
All right, I got it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I'm heading up this Little Sister Barn project for the Historical Society. And I suppose in its simplest sense, we're preserving an old barn to add to our collection of other buildings. But it's really much more than that. The Little Sister Resort is the last of the old original resorts in Sister Bay. They're all gone. I could go through the list, but they're all gone. So it's an end of an era in Sister Bay, and we're preserving a piece of that era. And ultimately, our vision or our goal is to repurpose the interior of the barn as the Sister Bay History Center, which we hope would be a museum quality, permanent year-round facility for the preservation and display of Sister Bay's history. And we don't have a permanent facility now. We just don't have it. But the first step is to get the barn physically moved to our site. The actual cost of the move with the numbers we have now, and this is just the physical move of the building, is $78,000. We've collected 75,000. So that pretty much covers that cost. We're just a tad short. So let's put that to the side. That leaves the foundation. The estimate we have now is in the range of $170,000. I saw some numbers today that make it maybe a little higher. We intend to apply to Raybrook for a grant for the foundation. We cannot apply for any of the moving costs. They only fund future plans. They don't reimburse for work in progress. So we can't claim anything related to physical move. The way their system works, they don't fully fund any project. And by my calculations on the foundation costs, they would consider 75%. Or about 125, leaving us with the other 45,000. So that's where we are. We're in the process of making that application. We're just short some documentation from contractors to support it. The village has been really a strong supporter of our efforts for quite a while, including the letter of intent that we just received. And I believe several weeks ago, there was a proposal floated before the board for a $25,000 contribution toward the project. And we're asking that you favorably approve that proposal. And our bottom line, our mission is to preserve the history of the village. It's your village. So we're looking for your support of our mission. I think Jerry App said it best in his letter. When a community forgets its history, it forgets what it is. So that's where we are. I can take any questions.
John, the grant you're applying for, when will you find out about that, whether or not you get that 75% or not?
It depends on when we get it filed. We'd hope to have it on file for November, but we missed it because we don't have supporting documentation. Our next shot is December. And I would guess that within a month, they'll have a decision. If we miss December, then we're out in January. The frustration is getting the backup documentation we need from contractors. As soon as we get it, we're ready to file.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for John? John, are you then going to work as diligently as you guys can to try and be in a position, as soon as possible to be able to report back on whether you've got 75% of that covered?
Yeah, this has turned into a full-time job for me, but as soon as we know something, you'll know something.
Okay.
And there's no guarantee we'll get the 125. It's whatever they decide that they're going to grant out of that. I'm fairly confident we'll get something. It's just a question of how much.
Do we have consensus among the trustees that we need to wait until we know some total of grants received or not received before we would consider dollar amount specifics?
I mean,
No, I don't think
I
so.
don't think that's irrelevant, but I think we got to understand where and how much we could, what's realistic, because I know we have a lot of other financial needs.
And with the information we know now, we know even if we got the maximum grant from Raybrook, we're still 45,000 short.
Can I speak in support of, or in addition to John on this?
Sure.
So this obviously is a large part of the fundraising, but it isn't all of it. It's going to be a constant effort over the years to continue to push this forward, because it's going to be something that continues to evolve. Do you want to mention Susan Gould at all, John? Because we have brought on someone who does this professionally to help us raise money consistently. Of course, we're applying for grants, but there is a bigger fundraising effort behind it than just.
Oh yeah, it's much bigger. It's much bigger when we get to the repurposing the interior. Yes, Susan Gould is working with us as a fund advisor. She's had many years of experience in this. And we have other members on the committee, beginning with Jill Loest, who've had heavy fundraising experience. So we have, I think, a pretty strong team lined up to make the effort, which obviously we intend to do.
The other thing is that Jill and John, Louise, myself, and Steph Burke, we have been meeting to, further this effort. And there's several other grants that we're eligible for. So I just wanted to put it out there that it definitely makes sense for you guys to see numbers before you commit to anything, but it's not a one shot, that's the only avenue. We're definitely working on a bigger effort.
Chad?
Yeah, I think as a board, we can all remember a couple months ago when we wanted to support this, but we didn't see any initiative. We didn't see a lot of push. We didn't see what we're seeing right now. And I feel like those of us that weren't maybe confident getting behind it, I don't think there's anything that I see to be apprehensive about at this point. So I don't know how that works though with us and what we can do. And obviously we, like I said, we have other things to think about, but is this something that goes through finance? How does this work? You more experienced people with the budget, Denise, maybe you can shed some light. How would we go about this?
Well, I had talked to Tasha a couple of months ago, and if she would like to chime in about our conversation, because I had asked her what was possible for the village to do with leftover funds at the end of the year. And she had given, well, I don't know that she actually gave me a dollar amount, but I just threw out a number and she's like, yep, we could do that. And I think it was $25,000. Is that correct, Tasha?
That is correct. So $25,000 in this case, if you did this in 2021 yet, would come out of unassigned fund balance. We would have to do a budget amendment for it, but we can always throw it in with the cleanup amendment at the end of the year. And that would be about 1.5% of fund balance. So considering our fund balance at the end of this year is looking to be about 38%, that still leaves us in that comfortable range for cash flow purposes. So,
I mean, the Historical Society, we have supported since the very beginning. I believe when Kurt Lindum was president, it has grown. It has become something really wonderful, a history center and a place to preserve the documents safely is a key component, I think, to this project, and something that is definitely worthwhile. I believe for 20 years, we have given the Historical Society $5,000 a year. And I would imagine with inflation, that $5,000 does not go as far today as it did the first year. We've never increased it, and we can, or we don't have to increase it in future years to come. But I see this as over the last 20 years, just the cost of inflation.
Good point.
Can I say something else too? We met last Friday with Bolt Construction. So we're trying to get started on the next step, which would be the build out of the interior. And in December, we will be filing with the Door County Community Foundation to see if we can't get their support. And of course, that would open up a lot of doors, a lot of avenues for fundraising.
Nate?
I guess I do see a lot more initiative than the last time when we talked about this. I think that was in the September meeting. There are a lot of other things that we need to spend money on, as Chad alluded to, and this $25,000 in my head is coming away from efforts to make affordable housing available. But at the same point, there is something to be said for preserving history. Like, I acknowledge that. What I would personally be comfortable with is to to see this engagement and to see this critical mass move forward and offer up that $25,000 as a matching amount to make sure that this is, if it's just the village, I think that the Historical Society could leverage that to get additional funds. And then we could provide that commitment. That's what I would prefer to do.
Well, where's Miles Danhausen so he can write that article?
I'll send him a text.
Yeah.
His birthday. That's why he's not on.
Yeah, it's his birthday today.
No, it's a really interesting idea, and I think it merits some thought.
Do you feel like you'd be able to get that matching $25,000 if that was what the village did?
I think a plan like that would be the initiative. It would be the spark that would get people to, it's a challenge. And then we have that challenge. And yes, I think it would be something that could lead to some fundraising. We need something like that, frankly.
Would you feel like the village is still supporting you and behind you if we did that?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about a matching contribution. Yeah, no, that's absolutely.
All right, did I hear a motion out of you, Nate, then?
Yeah. Well, I guess the question I'd have for Tasha is, can we put that under as a matching contribution? How does that affect things? Yeah.
If you make the motion that we would do a matching contribution up to an amount not to exceed $25,000 from unassigned fund balance, I don't see that as a problem. I guess I'm wondering how long, how long would that take to, like, what's your deadline? Are we saying by December 15th? So that the check can be cut by the end of the year?
Do we need to cut it by the end of the year for you?
You don't necessarily need to, but then to me, you should just budget for the $25,000 in the next year's budget.
Let's do that then. Let's just budget it for next year, and then
you can still do the matching contribution.
Yeah. Okay, I'll make that motion as Tasha just mentioned, with having it budgeted for 2022.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, we'd like to work with the village to put a program together to get this out in the public domain. So I'll be in touch.
Sounds good.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It really is impressive to see how far you guys have come in a pretty short time, and it's exciting. So thank you for all your efforts in that.
Let us know when that barn is actually moving. We want to be there.
Oh, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That it'll be a big event, believe me. And what I want to do is get a hold of the TV stations down in Green Bay to see if we can't get them up to get some coverage.
Can you advertise that we're only going to move it once?
No. I'll also mention, if I can, that there are going to be 2 other buildings that'll be moved at the same time that the barn will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So is there an actual date, Stephanie?
There is not at the moment. Nope.
Okay.
They're shooting for the first week in December.
Okay. Thank you.
Tasha? So now does the motion have to be that the 2022 budget is amended then?
Well, I think that
Thought we were taking it out of unassigned fund balance.
Yeah.
no, they were talking about amending the 2022 budget.
Well,
Or
that's
putting it in the
not-
2022
that's
budget.
not how I voted. I voted as we have a potential surplus in unassigned fund balance. And that if we were to provide a matching grant, that's where the funds come. I'm not looking to increase the tax burden on our citizens, not knowing that we were altering the 2022 budget.
You won't be increasing the tax burden on the citizens. Either way, it changes the unassigned fund balance. So what we would do is commit $25,000 of fund balance, and then we would also change the line item for by $25,000 for the contribution to the Historical Society. So, I mean, those things I guess now I will have to bring up in budget, but that's what we were doing. It would not change the mill rate as it's been published, as it is in your packet. It simply changes that unassigned fund balance.
The reason for that was the timing on the contribution, was it? That's what my understanding.
Right. If the contribution is not going to come till 2022, if we're not going to match those funds until 2022, then the easier thing is to get it into the budget before we adopt the budget, rather than amend it later.
Okay.
So then is this the right motion? That the 2022 budget shall be amended in such fashion that a matching funds donation of up to $25,000 shall be donated to the Sister Bay Historical Society for the Little Sister Barn Project.
Sure,
Yeah.
that works.
Okay.
Thank you, Janelle.
Okay, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, John.
Thank you.
John, thank you for your efforts.
Okay, item number 4, further discussion regarding the recommended 2022 budget for the Village of Sister Bay and discussion regarding the provisions of resolution number 476-1109-2021 that adopts that budget and related budget policies, as well as resolution number 477-1109-2021 that adopts the increase in the Sister Bay Liberty Grove Fire Department budget for 2022. Consider motion for action if appropriate. Tasha?
Okay, so thank you for all your time. So you just heard one of the budget amendments or one of the changes that has been done. So what I've done for that budget, what's different from what's in your packets, is I have included that under your general summary as a committed fund balance of an additional 25,000. So instead of that amount reading $36,056, it reads $61,056. The corresponding expense then is in other culture and recreation, and our contribution to the Historical Society would be a total of $30,000. That's what's budgeted. Okay, there are a couple of other changes that we have made since the public hearing in October. And all of these are detailed in your packet, and they're also highlighted in yellow throughout your budget. We got quotes for benefits back. The following changes were included. We increased health insurance 5.2%. This actually gave us room within the budget because we had a 20% increase budgeted. Health insurance costs have been fluctuating wildly because of COVID, so we were happy to get 5.2%. Long-term disability insurance increased 19.2%, and that you can directly relate to COVID as well. The budgeted increase was 5%. Luckily, that's a really small portion of our budget, and it made a difference of all of $80. So those changes were reflected in all of the benefit expenditure line items throughout the entire budget. They did not highlight each of those lines individually. The overall change was a savings of $18,944 in the general fund. We added $2,000 to the budget for storm sewer maintenance for other contracted services. This would be to complete survey work for storm sewer repair that is needed along a section of Mill Road. And this would be Mill Road from the fire out by the fire station towards Woodcrest. $4,000 was added to the budget for the bike trail general supplies for survey work that will be completed for a possible extension of biking and walking trails. The balance of the changes above reduces the fund balance we committed for contracted services. So what I had in your packet was that the new committed fund balance was $116,056. And now it will be $141,056. There are also changes in the wastewater and collection revenues. We increased those for all customer charges now that we have the third quarter charges in. Changes resulted in a $128,249 in increase in wastewater revenues and $39,335 in collection revenues. Finally, we increased material costs in the wastewater fund, $3,000. due to continued increasing costs in chemical and lab supplies. Are there any other questions or discussion items about the budget that you would like me to answer?
Got nothing.
Okay, I can tell you what our fund balance is projected to be for the end of 2022, and that's 41.85%. So that's it's a nice, comfortable fund balance. The comfortable to me is somewhere between 35 and 40%. So that's good. Considering that your fund balance percentage is based off of the future year's expenses, that can fluctuate just a little bit. Denise, you had a question?
What does that 41.8% come to in dollars?
Comes to $432,000.
Thank you.
Very good.
So do we need would it be appropriate to make a motion to adopt as presented and amended?
We would need to you've amended it with the motion you made before. So we simply need to adopt the two resolutions. Resolution 476 is the actual budget adoption. And resolution 477 is the state's required resolution to increase the funding to the fire department.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you,
Thanks,
Tasha.
Julie.
Great,
Seconded it?
great
Thank
work,
you all.
Tasha. Thank you so much.
Good job.
Thank you.
Chad, did you second it?
I did.
Okay.
Okay, items 5, 6, and 7 related to SBAA. We will discuss item number 7 first, and so everyone is on the same page and understands. We've got Louise and Drew here in attendance via Zoom. They will not be joining in on our public discussion as trustees of 5, 6, and 7. The board will have an opportunity to assess in closed session when we come to it, whether at that time there's anything to bring them into closed for to carry things further. Denise, your hand is up.
Yeah, so we can't talk to them or ask questions if we need to?
I'm not sure why we would need to, but if you feel as the discussion presents itself, if we have questions to ask of them, what we're not doing is using agenda items 5, 6, or 7 to engage in negotiations related to any of those agenda items that may become moot based on number 7.
Okay.
Okay, so item number 7, discussion regarding the drafting and submission of a letter from the Village of Sister Bay to Destination Door County requesting that DDC provide the 2022 funding for the Sister Bay Advancement Association. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. So a little background for everyone leading up to page 124 of your packet, which is the letter from Destination Door County and John Jerish regarding their designated commitment to support community business associations for 2022 and the amount of money they'll put behind that. Essentially, this letter put into writing John Jerish's statement at a prior MOU, Memorandum of Understanding Committee meeting, working on the agreement ultimately between DDC and Tourism Zone. When John made that statement in the meeting that DDC would take care of CBAs in 2022, it was immediately seized upon for questioning by Dave Elliott, who raised the issue and said, is that really the case, considering you recently sent a letter to Ephraim saying there would not be any money? He confirmed that, yes, there was a position switch and that there would be funding available. for any CBA that needed it in 2022, considering 2022 as a unique transition year until the increased revenue or the increased funds from the room tax increase essentially will be in a position as of 2023 to take over funding for all the organizations. So with that in mind, I spoke with Louise and asked Louise if SBAA would be willing to send a letter to DDC and John Jarish requesting that they hold forth on their verbal promise and take care of the funding for SBAA heading into 2022. Louise took that to the SBAA executive board. They came back and said they weren't interested in sending such a letter. They asked if we would be sending a letter, and I said that would be up to the full board to decide at the meeting tonight. So the question, one of the questions and one of the points for discussion, as I see it here this evening, is considering we now have in writing from John Jarish and DDC that they're committing to funding community business associations in 2022 as necessary. Considering that as things stand currently, we do not have an agreement with SBAA. And it would seem of sound logic to me that a next step would be for the Village of Sister Bay to send the DDC a letter referencing John's letter of October 27th, their commitment in writing to take care of CBAs in 2022, and to officially request that they confirm they will be taking care of funding for SBAA for 2022, and to provide specifics on that to us in advance of the December 14th board meeting of Sister Bay, so that we would be in a position at that time to know that they have stepped in and they are going to take care of the funding for SBAA or not. And that at that time, we can assess where we're at and see whether it's necessary for us to proceed forward in considering items 5 and 6 on the agenda, the agreement in general, et cetera. If they were going to, if they're going to uphold what they're promising in the letter, then 2022 essentially would be taken care of. And as long as they can provide details or confirmation on that in terms of the December meeting, then we should be in a position to be able to make sure in a cohesive manner that we know how SBAA is being taken care of and in a timely enough manner. Denise?
It is, I don't believe that we need to write a letter. I received a text and a phone call right before our meeting from Miles Danhausen, and the DDC had a meeting this evening, and they approved a budget which included the $1 million, which is 19% back to the municipalities. So there's no reason to write a letter. They've adopted it in their budget.
Well, I think it would be good to get written confirmation that the Village of Sister Bay is turning over the funding for 2022 to DDC or whatever, and get some confirmation that yes, DDC will fund SBAA in the amount of whatever that is. And Luis and everybody knows their budget is covered. But doesn't that make sense?
Well, the MOU still has to be agreed to between the Tourism Zone Commission and DDC. And the Tourism Zone Commission may or may not change the percentages. I don't know why they would, but basically Sister Bay, out of that 19%, our share is 12.2%. Which is $122,000. I think that we could delete part of the paragraph in the agreement tonight and add an additional paragraph stating that in light of DDC returning that 19% to the individual municipalities, that if they give us $122,000, that still leaves SBAA $47,000 short from what they would have received otherwise, and that we could include that we would come up with the additional $25,000 to fill that gap. And so it's the agreement states everything out.
I'm not following something. We went from 122 to having a $47,000 shortfall to coming up with 25,000 to plug the hole. Where's the other 22,000 if it's 47,000 off?
No, it's 25,000 off. It's 122,000 is what DDC would be returning.
Okay.
SBA's budget, based on other figures, would have had a budget of 147,000.
Oh, what did we?
Oh, wait, so it's actually, yeah. So 25,000 short. That's the gap from what their budget would have been. So I think if we just kind of add that wording to the agreement that we're looking at tonight, that if they do this, the village will provide that $25,000 gap. Chad?
I'm following your numbers. I agree. I think whatever the case, we need to approve this agreement at some level with the SBAA, knowing that, I mean, we can word it any way we want, whatever the visitor bureau decides to do or how they do it, and where we come out even or it comes out fair. We can put those big boy and girl words in there so we don't just keep dragging this on, right? The SBA wants to have a contract with the village. I know everybody gets caught on calling them a business association, but they are a part of building our community. And I don't want to hold off on a very important part of our community. I feel beyond what everybody thinks they do for our businesses, they do a ton for this community. So to Denise's point, I think we can make this happen within the contract tonight. Let's not wait till December.
So I've got a question, this 147, how is that arrived at? Where there was discussion of increased percentages that was denied, where there's talk of redoing it, where is 147?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes. I'm pulling it up on my packet right now. I'm sorry. It's 145,000. So what was at the 38%, the village would have given $103,000 to SBAA next year. And then SBAA would have received $42,000 from the SCP funds, which brings it up to 145,000. I'm sorry. So it's a $23,000 gap.
Or it's a $19,000 overage if we were based on the agreement that was not ratified but still exists in the form it exists in. We would be giving them 103,000. DDC's number is that they would be getting 122,000. So instead of the 103 from Sister Bay, they would now be getting 122 from DDC. So that's where my point comes in, that, considering we're talking about a 2022 operating budget, which I believe is they're on a fiscal January to December year. So between November 9th and December 14th, I don't see what's more of a priority and more of a first step than putting our best foot forward to get confirmation from the DDC. yes, the 122,000 will be delivered to SBAA. Here's the manner in which it will be delivered and how soon they will have it for their operations. And then we're in a position at the board meeting on December 14th to know where things stand. And if the DDC drops the ball or the DDC decides to, not be able to provide information in a timely manner, then we've got a discussion and an action to take. Okay, how are we going to bridge that gap? And then we've got, we've got a significant engagement with SBA to say, okay, how's the gap going to be bridged until it comes? It gives them the opportunity to tell us, hey, we need to know by then. If we know and get together on December 14th and know the 122,000, which is 19,000 more than we would have given them, is coming, then on December 14th, we can, reassess however you want to propose wording, any kind of.
But we can do the
subsidiary
wording,
agreement.
we can do the wording right now and not have to talk about it again and just get it done. And you can't only.
We don't know what we're going to do. I agree. We need Door County to tell us, here is what you're going to get when, because that would impact potentially what the board would be willing to provide.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Pat. I think we need, from a timeline standpoint, between
I'll just-
November
I'll just-
9th and.
Yep,
Go
I
ahead,
don't want to
Paul.
interrupt you, but I'll make a motion that we write a letter asking for confirmation of the amount that Door County will be providing to SBAA. Is it 122 or is it some other amount? How and when will the mechanics of that work? And we have got a meeting December 14th. So if at all possible, we'd like to know before that.
Okay,
I think we should hear from Louise and Drew before we start voting on something. That would be my vote. That's not a real vote.
okay, we have a motion from Pat. I will second that motion. Do we have any further discussion among the trustees?
I'd like
Yeah,
a roll call vote, please.
You'd like what?
A roll call vote.
Okay. Janelle, will you handle roll call vote?
Sure. Baker,
Yes.
Bertle,
No.
Bell,
No.
Nino,
No.
Kadanko,
No.
and Zowski.
Yes.
Well, I didn't say anything. I'll say yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pat, Duffy.
That's okay. That's all right.
I want to bring up here, this
I know
is
how I rate.
something I want to bring up here is we really should have a list of the trustees in alphabetical order, because it really would help the movement of the meeting, because alphabetical order, it goes all over the place. So if we could do that, so staff reads the same order every time, it would save us time and I wouldn't have to say this again.
Well, see, I was told I'm not supposed to do that every time. That
Who
it's
told you that?
supposed to be varied. I was told that by Dave and by Zeke.
And I guess it could be that way people, you're changing up if people, I get what you're saying, Nate, but I also understand where somebody could say, hey, just because my name starts at this letter, I don't want to be the first one or the second one to have to come out and say where I'm going to be. But it should be your opinion, your decision, what you say. So whatever.
You could call us in the same order, just vary where you start.
Or you could have a list of all the trustees, so you don't have to sit there and think, oh, what are all trustees' names? That
All right, we'll figure that out. Let's get back to the topic.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so moving then to agenda item 5, discussion regarding repealing the disallowance of the proposed 2022 operating agreement between the Village of Sister Bay.
Wait. Just because that motion failed doesn't mean that we can't continue discussion on agenda item number 5. Is that correct?
7.
Or 7?
Okay, further discussion?
I mean, because Louise and Drew both had their hands up to maybe share some information with us. Chad wanted to hear from them. The motion went forward, so it was denied. I mean, do we?
Okay.
you're not
So if
interested
we're
in hearing from
sticking
them,
to, if we're sticking to agenda item 7, then further discussion. Yes, if there's something that Louise or Drew, if you have questions of Louise or Drew related to the fact that the motion was not approved for us to send a letter to DDC, what are those questions?
Well, my question, well, I don't see Louise. I'm sure she got ticked off and left, unfortunately. Drew, you had your hand raised. Did you want to share something with the thought process that the board was having?
Well, I just wanted to clarify a point Rob was talking about, and Pat wanted to clarify too. The dollar amounts of the different funding that we were talking about. So over the past 3 years up to the end of this year, we've been under an agreement with the village that they would provide 38% of the room tax that was given to the village to us, which on projections for this year would end up being $103,000. So the point that the 122,000 and some change offered by the DDC would be more than that, leaves out the fact that the DDC also pays to the different municipal organizations like the SVAA, what's called the SCP funds, which this year would be $42,000, or next year would be $42,000. And some change. So
so that does not, just so I'm following, that is, what does that, how does that relate to whether or not we would be sending the DDC a letter?
Well, not only that, why aren't we asking them for all the money that you would normally get? So it should include the 42,000 they know they were going to do anyway, plus the 103 that the village would get. That would keep your budget whole.
I agree.
Tasha?
So the difference between that, Pat, is that our budget is based off of 2021's room tax collections, which was far higher than 2020's. The DDC, at least as far as I'm reading, is basing them off of 2020. And I think that's the difference. So that was my concern, was would they have enough funding because you're basing it off a lower year where we actually dropped in room taxes?
Yeah, Tasha's right. They're going 2 years back. I don't know why. Maybe it's easier for them to keep track of it and be whatever, but they're going 2 years back on how they're funding this forward, is what I understand.
Okay. We went to a percentage and we said, this is what the new plan is going to be. We're moving to a point where in another year, they're going to get, I think, more money than that.
Internet went out.
We're looking for a gap year.
Oh, you're not connected.
I don't get, okay, I still don't get it. So if they're saying they're not going to get, like Ephraim, they're not going to get funded. If what the village was going to give them, they make up, and what they were going to give them, they still give them, they're getting what they thought they're going to get.
They're not getting $145,000.
So what are they going to get?
How do we know? How do we know that?
Goddamn letter and say, what are you going to give us in total?
How do we know until they
what they're
put it
going to
in
get? And then we can decide, do we need to give them something else or not? Figure out what they're going to get. We don't know what they're going to get. Ask the people to put it in writing that we know what they're going to get.
They did put it in writing. They did put it in writing. Read the letter from the DDC.
I don't see the Village of
it.
Sister Bay named in there, and I don't see a specific dollar amount to the Village of Sister Bay or
Well,
any.
let me read it to you and I will explain it to you.
Okay, but see, here's the thing, Louise.
I'm not allowed to explain it?
No, I know very well you can explain and interpret from your, understanding what the letter means. That doesn't change the fact that the letter doesn't say, this is how much we're giving to these municipalities. So that's, I don't understand what is such a difficult idea to consider that it's beneficial to Sister Bay, SBAA, and moving forward, that we know in writing specifically, okay, what does this letter mean? Not Louise Housen's interpretation, not Denise Berto's, not Pat Duffy's, not Rob Zoschke's, not anybody's, but what will you be providing to SBAA specifically? Because
And what I don't understand is what's wrong with having that put into the agreement? That
Exactly.
whatever
we don't know
that
what the
amount,
number, how
whatever,
can you put something in that we don't know what
I
it is? till
really
they
wish
tell
you
us?
would just let me talk and not interrupt me. Just once. What I don't understand, why we can't come to an agreement, and in that agreement have verbiage that says that whatever the destination Door County gives us, which I believe will be 122,000, it could be more, it could be less, it will be in that range. Whatever they give us would come out of whatever the agreed upon amount is that we come up with as partners. We are partners. I don't know what happened to that. 7 months. 7 months. I just don't know what happened. All I know is that we should have an agreement. It is in both of our best interests. If we don't have an agreement, all of our funding will come from DDC. The village will have no say in anything we do. That is not good for the village, and it's not good for SBAA. I don't care who's here. I don't care if it's me or anybody else, makes no difference. It's not good. Sturgeon Bay kept their agreement with Destination Sturgeon Bay and gave them additional funding. Call Josh Van Leeshout. Call Dave, he'll tell you. It's the best interest of all of us. We are not trying to screw anybody. We're not trying to get more money than we think we deserve or that we thought was coming. If we had a 38% agreement, it would have been $109,000. Tasha, what's in the budget for us for 22? It's $109,000.
Yes.
If we got SPC money from DDC, it would have been $42,000. That's where the number comes from. It's not made up. And then they're going to give us 122. That's the shortfall. That's just what it is. It's a big number. I know it's a big number. The village is getting a big number. Everybody's getting a big number. Room tax is going up. We had a great year. It's just what it is. You may think it's too much. I'm just telling you, those are the numbers. They're real. They're not made up. So that's what it is. So you can write the letter. You can get it in writing from them. You know what? I don't. That's what it is.
Well, for what it's worth, Louise, I don't think anybody is in any way, shape, or form making a knock on SBAA.
It seems like it though, Pat. The way you're doing this, it seems like it. It's very easy to interpret that way because I see it that way. It's become very adversarial. They are our partners. And this is getting so petty about words and documents and all this. There's no reason we cannot write up a contract and cover ourselves in the event they give way more than we think. We can totally write it that way because that's what a good partner does. And you guys are not acting like good partners, and don't act like you are.
Okay. Good part. Somebody might also say that good partners would make it a point to attend board meetings when a discussion on a rescindment of a disallowance of the contract came up, which for months has not been decided on because for some board members, it hasn't been a priority enough to attend the meeting to vote on it based on other things they wanted to do.
Really, Rob?
So,
Really, Rob?
okay. Yeah, really. So first of all, I
Sorry,
don't.
spending an evening.
I cannot
with
wait
the people that
until
work.
your term is over, Rob. You are so full of it.
Jesus Christ,
I
Rob.
tried to support you, guy, but geez, you are off the rails, Rob.
I don't think I'm off the rails at all, and I'm not in support of SBAA. But I do not see any other sound logic than getting the DDC to tell us, yes, here's how much money we're going to provide SBAA. Here's the timeliness of how we're going to provide it so that we know specifically how we want to step in and bridge the gap. That's all. And I get, everyone's point about partnership, but I'm not hearing any reason why between November 9th and December 14th, we can't find out what the DDC has to say about when the money will be there. How can we customize an agreement for all these for instances that would be defined by knowing here's how much we're going to give SBAA and when?
Because it's very simple to specify exactly. And they may not even have a meeting to determine and to give us an exact dollar amount by our December meeting. And because this has been going on for 7 months, this organization is in limbo to a certain degree because of us. And whatever the gap is, that's all we have to say that we will cover. And in the budget, there's $109,000. So as long as we don't spend more than $109,000 that's in the budget, that's easy wording to put this baby to bed tonight.
Except that if for some reason Destination Door County changes their figure, I will pretty much assume we're going to be back at this again, asking for that makeup amount. No? Or are we done? So if we say, here's your $25,000, and if you get 20,000 less than you thought from DDC, the village board, you are not able to petition the village board for any more. If you want a done deal tonight, that's what I say. It's done deal.
I'm saying that we take 100.
We've knocked it down. We've said, no, you're not going to get more. Now we want to reopen it. You want another chance at it, fine. If we give that chance, is that it? Because in my mind, it
No,
might
it's not it
be.
because we're
But if we-
grown-ups. It's not it because we're grown-ups.
Okay,
We're
except that
partners.
Chad, the grown-ups decided already. And the grown-ups want to revisit it again. So if you're a grown-up, those that lost should shut up and move on as a grown-up.
We didn't lose. I can make a motion right now to give them 38% and we might get 4 votes.
You might. Go ahead and make it.
I'm trying to work together on this though. I'm not
Okay.
trying to make motions to shoot shit down to write a letter. We can still write a letter. I'm not against the letter. We can write a letter, but it's mutually exclusive from also approving a deal for our SBAA.
That's fine. That's how you see it. I don't see it that way. I think that based upon what they say and what SBA says they need as a gap or difference, then that's the amount that the board says, is that what we're willing to do? Or is it some different amount? But until such time as we know, I don't want to do this again in 2 months. If we say, yep, we'll do 25,000. Oh, nope, wait, we need 47,000. And we got to do it all again. So why
I'm
not just
saying
Hey,
that we
hold on here.
take the $147,000.
Let's let Vivian talk. She has been civil and raised her hand politely.
Thank you, Nate. Can we not make a motion stating that we will cover any gap up to the $109,000 that we have budgeted?
Yes. Yes.
And write the letter.
Okay, so if you're in business and you have somebody that has knowledge that the funding is going to come from elsewhere, why they may not need to do what they were going to do. Ephraim put together the letter and said, look, handle this. You're getting all this extra money. They have $1 million extra in their coffers to do this. Let them pay for it. Tell them what you need and let them pay for it. If after that point there is a shortfall, then you come back and you say, okay, here's what we need.
Drew?
Well, in the case of Ephraim, they didn't have an agreement with their village and they would have gotten substantially less. So by entering an agreement with the DDC, they made out quite a bit more. In our case, it's going to be the exact opposite of that. So putting Ephraim aside, I don't understand why we can't have an agreement with the village with terminology that says that we can revisit it once, you know, things are decided by the DDC, once the MOU is signed and all that kind of stuff. Because we know that's the whole reason why we changed everything and made it a 1-year agreement that was proposed to the village in the first place versus a 3-year agreement, which we originally proposed. Because we knew that the room tax thing was changing and funding was going to be changing, and nobody knew exactly what handles and strings and everything else was going to be attached by the DDC and DCTZ and everything. So the thing is as Chad pointed out, we're more than just a marketing tool of the village. The DDC, that's basically what they do. They do marketing, and they want to fund marketing campaigns. And there's a lot of talk about consolidating all the marketing efforts in the county. And that's all well and good, but then what happens to everything else that we do for the village? All the events, the festivals, the good works we do for our businesses, our other not-for-profit organizations, all that kind of stuff. You know, that doesn't necessarily come under the purview of marketing. And when all of our funding is given to us by an organization that is only looking for marketing, you know, I don't know how we're going to pay for all that unless we have some sort of funding or agreement or something with the village. So that's what we're after, is we're trying to come up with an agreement with you guys that will take care of that, and will, you know, cover any shortfall that we came up with in our budget for next year based on what we projected we were going to have. And those, you know, we outlaid those figures. So, I mean, it's not really hard to come up with. We don't know what the MOU is going to, you know, how it's all going to settle out with the DDC, whether it's going to be 122,000, whether it's going to be more, whether it's going to be less. But like Vivian said, I don't know why we couldn't come up with something that says, okay, here's, you know, our agreement. This is the amount that we thought we were going to get. If this does not turn out to be the case for the next year with DDC, then, you know, the village will pay for X, Y, Z. Is there something like that that we can talk about?
Well, what do you find? So what would you say that dollar amount is, Drew? What would you say that dollar amount is if 122,000 is provided by the DDC? Then what are you asking for?
Well, like we said, the difference between the first of all, the agreement that we had proposed that's still on the table was the $41,000 percentage of the tax. So that would have been projected to be $111,000. SCP funds from DDC would have been $42,000. So that's $153,000. So 122 from 153 is what? $31,000.
31.
Based on the 38%, that was $130 or $103,000 plus the $42,000 SCP funds. That's $145,000. 122 from 145 is $23,000. So somewhere in that ballpark.
So then are you saying in the various revisions to the contract that exists at this point in time, you're saying that we should not go with the 38%, but go with the 41%? Because you guys agreed that for, when we got to the point of the contract that was voted on and not approved, there was an agreement that it would be 1 year at 38%, correct?
No, it was 1 year at 41%.
Okay,
And then that was brought to the village,
okay.
and then that was not approved, and now it's agenda item number 5.
Okay, so you want the, so based on the 122 that the DDC would provide, the specific dollar amount then would be 31,000 in addition?
That would seem fair, yeah.
Okay, so then it sounds like the motion that's being requested would be to moving to item number 5 and item number 6, that we would be revising the 2022 operating agreement to provide $31,000 to SBAA with the expectation that 122,000 would be forthcoming from the DDC. And based
But
on,
no, see, that's the whole issue, is we don't know for sure that that's going to happen yet, right? You just said we should write the letter and find out.
no, I said that, but everyone said I was not of a sound mind to be suggesting it, and others said that it was unnecessary based on a
So Drew,
conversation.
do you
that they
think we
had
should
with
write a
somebody
letter
in the
to find
media.
out what, yeah. Does Drew think we should write the letter to find out what we're gonna get?
Pat, to be honest, originally, I didn't think it was necessary because they already have said what their intention is. And as Denise said, they voted on it today. The DDC board voted on it and they approved it. What they presented was percentage amounts, and they said that they were going to, this is how much money they had. They were going to divide it up based on the percentage of what they would give us in SCP funds for the year, which would be 12.2, 12.4 thousand, or 12.4%, whatever that was. And so if you figure that out, it would be around $122,000. So they've said that's what they're going to do. Now, do we have an exact dollar figure? No, because the thing is they're not going to have an exact dollar figure either, because it's based on projections of the room tax, which hasn't come in yet for the year. They don't have November's room tax. They don't have December's room tax. I don't even know if they have October's figured out yet. So it's all based on projections. So we don't have an exact dollar amount for them to be able to give us at this time. That's why I feel that it would be necessary for us to go ahead, have an agreement with the village saying that you're going to fund us at this much for the next year, with wording in the agreement, which actually is already in there, that says that either party can, in the agreement, whenever we feel like it. It's already in there. It's been in there for the last 7 years. We should have it, go ahead, pass that agreement so that we know that we're going to have at least a certain amount of money that we can plan on to fund everything that we need to do for the next year and start doing our job. And then when the DDC gets around to finally deciding how much money they're going to give us, you and I can sit back down and say, okay, let's change this all around now and make it how it should be. I don't see why we can't do that.
Well, we have the money in the budget now. I'm not hearing anyone say we should strike it from the budget. So if we have the money in the budget and it's there,